Professional mixing and mastering engineers use mid-side processing not like you would expect, and it has to do with the way MS processing actually works. I'm sure 95% of people watching this video right here don't know about this, so it's time to bust a common audio myth about mid-side mixing. So in this video, you're going to learn what mid-side processing actually means. I'll show you some mid-side techniques that you can use to take your mixes from good to great, and at the end of this video, I'm going to share one of my personal favorite secret weapon MS mixing tricks. So first of all, let's bust that common audio myth about mid-side processing. So the name mid-side kind of implies that we're working with the mid signal, which means the center of the stereo image, and the side signal, which is everything at the sides, like left and right. But that is not completely true. Let me prove this with an example that will surprise you. So I've created 3 channels here that will reveal what's actually going on with MS processing. So here's the center channel. This is a sine wave that is completely unpanned, so it's just centered. Then we have hard left, which is a sawtooth wave that is panned to the left. As you can see here, nothing on the right happening. And then we have a hard right channel, which is a square wave that is panned completely to the right. Now, these channels will help us solve the issue and reveal the mysteries around MS processing. On my master channel, I have the BX meter, and this allows us to test different configurations, listening just to the left, just to the right, just to the mid channel, and to the side channel. So does mid-side actually mean mid-side? Let's test this. If I flip on the mid switch, we should just hear the center information, right? This is what it's supposed to sound, because this is the only thing in the center, but why are we also hearing hard left and hard right in the mid channel? That is weird. Let's listen to the side channel. Strange. It's basically the center channel not present at all. What's going on here? This is where it gets interesting. A more appropriate professional audio term for mid-side is sum and difference. The mid channel is the sum of the left and the right channel, L plus R, and the difference channel, the side channel, is L minus R, so left minus right. This is where it all starts to make sense here. If we go back to our example, it now makes sense. So we have the mid channel activated. Of course, the first thing we will hear is the center information, what's not panned at all. And then, since it's left plus right channel combined, of course we also hear something from the left channel plus something from the right channel. Same holds true for the difference signal, the side signal. It's the difference between left and right. Well, of course, we have left and right, and there are different waveforms here. We hear something from that, but then since the sine wave from the center is exactly identical on the left and the right channel, otherwise it wouldn't come out as mono in stereo matrix, this is why it gets subtracted, because we have left channel minus right channel. And if something is the same on both channels, well, obviously it gets subtracted from the signal. So this is the reason why we just don't hear the center channel in the side information. So what does this mean for your own productions, your mixes? How can you now use MS processing in a way that makes sense? Well, now that you know that the mid channel also contains stuff that is present in the sides, you will work differently with this tool. But then on the other hand, you know that everything that is dead centered will not be present in the side signal. So this gives you some clues on how to from now on use these tools. And this is also the reason why most professional mixing and mastering engineers are very careful with using MS stuff, because it starts to sound weird, like really weird, if you overdo it, if you do the wrong tweaks. Let's now apply that knowledge and actually work on some music. We'll jump into a session. I will show you some practical MS mixing examples. Before we get there, if you got any value out of this video so far, then consider subscribing to the channel, consider liking this video. It really shows me that the type of content is right for you, and I will do more of that in the future. So here we have a techno track, sounds like this. And this track has a fair amount of stuff going on in the center, but also on the side portion of the signal. So one way to use mid-side processing in mixing is to control the amount of stereo width in the low end. Let's try this out. So I've chosen a kick drum sample that has a ton of reverb on it for whatever reason, but it sounds amazing. But you can hear the reverb kind of spreading out from this. Then I also have sub bass, which sounds like this. which also is not completely centered. As you can see, like the left and right channel are dancing around a little bit. This is, by the way, how you visually see what's going on. Is there something different between left and right channel? So let's throw an EQ on the kick drum channel, for example. I will just use a high pass filter, and also I will activate linear phase mode. Now the linear phase mode in many instances is not ideal because it introduces an artifact called pre-ringing. In mid-side processing, linear phase is actually kind of essential because since you're ripping the sound apart and then bringing it together after the MS matrix, you can run into some very weird phase issues if you don't do this. Obviously, that's a case-by-case situation. Sometimes it might sound worse or better. You have to listen to this. But as a starting point, most MS processing is better done in linear phase mode. Now, this is an advanced EQ function. Not every standard DAW EQ has this. So I'm showing this now in the Kirchhoff EQ. The Fab filter also has the setting. And we'll go to side here and just see how we can get rid of the sides without destroying the overall integrity of the signal. I'm soloing this frequency now. So as you can probably hear, it takes away some of that side rumble without messing too much with the original kick drum sound. You could theoretically then go in here and boost the center portion once again, but this is where it gets tricky because of course with the mid channel, you will obviously also boost the left and right channels as well. So it kind of defeats the purpose if you do these kinds of tweaks at the same time. Sometimes it sounds better because you still boost more of that center information than from the sides, but actually I'm a big fan of going a bit more into the reducing side of things with the side channel instead of boosting stuff on the mid channel. What's quite nice is that you can also decide to boost some of that ambience in, let's say, the upper mid range. So if you have a kick drum sample that has a little bit of ambience and you would just like to bring it out, then you can also use MS processing to lift this up a little bit. Now, if I wanted to process this kick drum further, apart from the mid-side stuff, I would actually do it in a separate instance. So throw on a new EQ plugin that is not linear phase, because I just don't want to have these downsides that I've just talked about. So we did surgical MS stuff first. Now we're going to go into a little bit more of the fun stuff. We want this kick drum to poke through a little bit more. I want to push this kick drum a little bit more, have a bit more of the punch in here, so we'll go for something like 120, 150 hertz. Let's listen to this, boost it around there. Of course, I will compensate later on for the gain difference. Bit of compression. Gentle ratio, fast release. I'm going a bit more quickly through this because I have a separate mixing kick and bass video where I talk about all that stuff in more detail. You get the idea. So you do the surgical stuff first, then you move on to the rest of the chain. This is at least how I would operate. Let's now listen to the rest of the music. So what's going on with the percussions, for example. So this is extremely stereo. It might be too stereo sounding for some folks. So what you can do is you can, for example, go in here. Let's just group this together and work on the percussion group. Make this linear once again. So we maybe want a little bit more focus in the signal. So something that you can do, which sounds quite nice, is to go here into the side processing, bring this down maybe with a shelf. So you might or might not like this. This is just showcasing you what the example gives us. In this case, if I wanted to bring out a certain element here, I would do it like this. I would bring down the side channel a little bit, boost a little bit of the mid channel here, knowing that it will also affect some of the stuff that is coming from the sides. And one thing that is especially beautiful is using MS processing, for example, on lead sounds. And this is where I will show you like a little secret weapon hack that I personally use. Now, this last trick that I'm about to show you is what separates some of the great productions from only good ones. So stay tuned for that. If you need help with finishing songs, I have a free gift for you. It's called the Finisher Framework. You can get it at pickyourself.com/framework. It's super simple to read, just 3 simple steps that you can use to finish at least one great sounding song per month. Pickyourself.com/framework. Get the link in the description. So let's listen to our leads here. There's some super cool stuff going on the sides of the sound. And I will show you a mid-side saturation technique that I personally like quite a lot. Let's check it out. So here's one of my favorite saturation plugins. It's called Black Box. It has an MS functionality that we have to activate. So I click on MS here. And if you want to treat the mid and the side differently, you have to also click here to unlink the parameters. Otherwise, you're just going to do the same thing on mids and sides. But I'll just leave this clicked off so we can treat everything individually. So if I now wanted to make those sides stand out and be even more immersive and give them a little bit of an extra crunch, I can do it with this plugin. So I will activate the saturation just here on the side channel. And by the way, like the rest of the plugin is still active. Yeah, it's just the saturation circuit is being activated here. You can hear how the delays and room sounds get a bit more crunchy. So I would do this very subtly. You could also use a little bit of this air setting. This is just harmonics, super high ones. Now I'm overdoing this a little bit, so this already rips apart the stereo image a little bit. It starts to sound a bit phasey. What you can do in these situations is to, for example, use the parallel mix knob, a bit of that. Don't worry if you didn't fully hear this in the whole mix. Like, this is the kind of 0.3% stuff. It doesn't sound super impressive on its own, but once you add up these tiny changes and subtle moves across a whole mix, yes, this makes a real difference. And this is why, yeah, a lot of professional mixing mastering engineers don't do that much. Yeah, it's just tiny nudges here and there. So let me know what you think. Drop a comment below and share some of your favorite MS mixing techniques with me. I'm excited to hear about them. If you have follow-up questions, also leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.